One bottle, under €2, and 2 day, under 3 day, hydrogen peroxide, oxygenated water, and it will clean, disinfect, deodorize, and sanitize almost every surface in your home more effectively than the expensive branded products lining your cleaning cupboard right now. I know how that sounds. I know because I would have dismissed it too for most of my adult life. I'm Keiko Nakamura. I'm 72 years old. I grew up in Osaka in a home where my mother and grandmother cleaned with almost nothing. A few simple, natural compounds that cost almost nothing and worked on everything. Their homes were spotless, not managed clean, genuinely deeply clean. Then I moved overseas. I built a life in a country where the supermarket cleaning aisle stretched for 20 meters and each product had a specific purpose, a specific surface, a specific problem it claimed to uniquely solve. I bought all of it. I believed all of it. My cleaning cupboard became a small warehouse of specialty sprays, and my home, I'll be honest with you, was never as clean as my mother's had been with almost none of those products. It took me returning to Japan in my early 60s, looking at how my family still cleaned and asking the question I should have asked 40 years earlier, what are they actually using? Hydrogen peroxide was part of the answer, and once I understood what it actually does, I understood why the cleaning industry works so hard to make sure you never think of it. What hydrogen peroxide actually is, ang creatua de case IT shrenentiwet, idesgestis sus I challenge anadendi to freeze and ichij e anasenofrigene. Hydrogen peroxide is water with one extra oxygen atom, H2O2. It occurs naturally. It cannot be patented. No corporation owns it. Any pharmacy sells it for almost nothing. A standard 3% solution, the concentration used for household cleaning, costs less than a cup of coffee and treats your entire home. That last fact is the problem. For them, the global household cleaning products market generates over 200 billion euros annually. That number depends entirely on one belief being maintained in your mind, that each cleaning problem requires a different purchased solution, a different product for the bathroom, a different one for the kitchen, a different disinfectant for surfaces, a different mold remover for grout, a different sanitizer for food preparation areas. Hydrogen peroxide disrupts this completely. It is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and antisporal. It bleaches stains. It neutralizes odors at their source. It breaks down organic matter. It leaves no toxic residue. It breaks down into water and oxygen, both of which your home already contains. One compound, every surface, no toxicity, no proprietary formula. Impossible to mark up significantly because anyone can buy it anywhere for almost nothing. This is why you have never seen a major advertising campaign for hydrogen peroxide. This is why it doesn't have its own shelf in the cleaning aisle. This is why the products that contain it as their primary active ingredient are sold under technical sounding brand names at 10 to 20 times the cost of the raw compound. My grandmother didn't know the chemistry. She just knew what worked. And she was right. The science, briefly, bakukomenju, the nabishachi way, aridischi kanju, the nanats, because you should understand why this works. At 3% concentration, hydrogen peroxide releases free oxygen radicals when it contacts organic material. Those radicals are extraordinarily effective at breaking molecular bonds in bacterial cell walls, viral protein structures, fungal membranes, and organic stain compounds. The pathogen or stain is oxidized, broken apart at a molecular level, and akreishe, akhachia, and electris, and the hydrogen peroxide itself becomes water. This is why it whitens grout without the caustic damage of bleach. This is why it kills bacteria on food preparation surfaces without leaving chemical residue that will later contact your food. This is why it eliminates mold at the spore level rather than just bleaching the surface appearance of mold. This is why it removes blood, wine, and organic stains from fabric that commercial stain removers struggle with. And this is why the safety data sheets of dozens of premium cleaning products, if you look at them carefully, list hydrogen peroxide or its derivatives as the primary active ingredient. They've taken a compound that costs almost nothing, added fragrance, stabilizers, and coloring agents, poured it into impressive packaging, and charged you 15 to 30 euros for what is functionally a diluted version of the €2 bottle at the pharmacy. You have been paying a brand tax on something your great-grandmother could buy for pennies. The kitchen, surfaces, cutting boards, refrigerator. Food preparation surfaces need genuine disinfection, and just to kadi abifigi chouts atasu banazalt anomatian and such appearance of it. Most commercial kitchen sprays deliver fragrance and a brief antimicrobial effect that fades within minutes. Hydrogen peroxide at 3% concentration kills E. coli, Salmonella, Listeria, and Staphylococcus on contact and continues working for several minutes after application. Spray directly onto the counter surface. Leave for 2 to 3 minutes. Wipe with a clean cloth. No rinsing required. The compound breaks down into water and oxygen, leaving nothing behind that would be unsafe near food. Cutting boards, particularly wooden ones, harbor bacteria in the grain in ways that surface wiping cannot reach. Spray the board generously with hydrogen peroxide. Let it foam for 5 minutes. The foaming is the oxidation reaction working in the pores of the wood, breaking down organic matter that has penetrated below the surface. Rinse and dry. This is something my mother did with a different method. A natural oxidizing compound is trijaden, denichide and adejai energeichiats, but the principle is identical. The refrigerator presents a specific problem. It requires a disinfectant that is safe around food, leaves no chemical residue, and doesn't introduce strong fragrance that will transfer to food. Hydrogen peroxide is the answer to all 3 requirements simultaneously. Wipe shelves and drawers with a cloth dampened in 3% solution. The smell, a fi asiwe amegachi akichiu. A smell, a fi, a very faint, clean sharpness, dissipates completely within minutes. For lingering refrigerator odor, place a small open container of hydrogen peroxide on a shelf. It slowly releases oxygen, which oxidizes the odor compounds in the refrigerator air. More effective than baking soda for persistent smells, and it also sanitizes the air as it works. The bathroom, mold, grout, and genuine disinfection. I want to pause here and tell you something. When I came back from that trip to Japan in my early 60s and started relearning what my family had always known, testing it in my own home, surface by surface, I started keeping detailed notes, not to publish, just to understand what worked, where, how, and why. What I'd been buying for 40 years that was either unnecessary or a marked up version of something simple. Those notes eventually became a book. I called it Clear Water because that's what hydrogen peroxide essentially is. Just water with an extra oxygen atom, doing more than any branded product ever managed in my home. The bathroom chapter is where most readers tell me everything clicked for them. Sandra from Ireland wrote to say she'd had a mold problem in her bathroom for 3 years, had tried every specialist mold product on the market, and nothing had permanently solved it. She used the method from the book, and within 2 weeks, the mold hadn't just been removed. Eti anichio, anoesti so Antiwet it hadn't come back. James from New Zealand said he'd been spending €40 a month on bathroom cleaning products and now spends almost nothing. Miriam from Portugal wrote that she read the chapter on grout and immediately went to test it, and then sat on her bathroom floor for a moment because she couldn't believe something so simple had done what expensive grout cleaner hadn't. Clear water is in the pinned comment below. Now, agifige. Anabi kunade friki, nadida chugai, ida krigigai, anade fetchage, anade, and back to the bathroom, because this is where hydrogen peroxide's power is most dramatic. Mold. The industry sells you mold removers that bleach the surface appearance of mold while leaving the underlying spore structure intact. This is why mold always comes back in the same places. The netatpechai adesawi ki de kantau ki kanai de tadi. Visible black is gone, but the root system remains. Hydrogen peroxide kills mold at the spore level. The oxidation reaction penetrates below the surface rather than blanching the top layer. Spray undiluted 3% hydrogen peroxide directly onto mold-affected grout, tile, or sealant. Leave it for 10 minutes minimum. Do not wipe it off during this period. The solution needs time to penetrate and oxidize the spore structure below the surface. Then scrub with a stiff brush and rinse. For persistent mold, repeat twice a week for 2 weeks. The mold will not return in the same location because the spores that would generate new growth have been destroyed, not just discolored. Toilet bowls. Pour half a cup of hydrogen peroxide directly into the bowl. Leave for 30 minutes. Brush and flush. This sanitizes more effectively than commercial toilet cleaners, which rely on the same oxidizing chemistry but in a more expensive, heavily fragranced form. The hydrogen peroxide also addresses limescale by oxidizing the mineral deposits, loosening them for easier removal. Shower walls and screens, spray with 3% solution, leave for 5 minutes, wipe. For glass shower screens with limescale buildup, spray, leave longer, and the oxidizing action loosens the mineral deposits without scratching the glass surface the way abrasive commercial cleaners do. Toothbrushes. A brief soak in hydrogen peroxide solution once a week, 5 minutes, then rinse thoroughly, sanitizes more effectively than any commercial toothbrush sanitizer product, which is typically just a diluted oxidizing solution in more expensive packaging. Laundry, stains, whitening, and odor. This is where hydrogen peroxide does something commercial products charge significantly more to achieve. White fabrics that have yellowed from age, from sweat, from storage can be restored with a soak in hydrogen peroxide solution before washing. Add 1 cup of 3% solution to a basin of warm water. Soak for 30 minutes. Wash normally. The oxidation reaction breaks apart the yellowing compounds without the fiber damage caused by chlorine bleach. Blood stains. Apply hydrogen peroxide directly to the stain while still fresh or recently dried. The foaming reaction you'll see is the oxidation working on the organic compounds in the blood. Leave for 5 minutes, blot, and wash normally. This works on sheets, clothing, and upholstery. The seisei ang kaukidi kau atol si seisi until trig and they the same reaction, the same result. Commercial stain removers marketed for blood stains use this exact chemistry at a dramatically higher price point. Sports clothing and towels that have developed persistent odor despite repeated washing add half a cup of hydrogen peroxide to the wash cycle along with normal detergent. The oxidizing action breaks down the bacterial colonies embedded in the fabric, the actual source of the smell, rather than masking them with fragrance. After 1 wash with hydrogen peroxide, the odor is gone. So, enchitio hasta chio, not covered. gone. For white towels specifically, a hydrogen peroxide soak before washing restores brightness without the fiber damage of repeated bleach use. My mother's white towels lasted decades. She never used chlorine bleach. She used oxidizing compounds that cleaned without destroying the fabric structure over time. Hard floors, grout lines, and the surfaces everyone finds hardest. Floor grout is where most people eventually give up and either regrout or learn to ignore the discoloration. Commercial grout cleaners are either caustic enough to damage the grout over time or mild enough to be largely ineffective. Hydrogen peroxide occupies the exact space between these two failures. Apply 3% hydrogen peroxide directly to grout lines. For significant discoloration, make a paste with baking soda. The combination of the two creates an enhanced oxidizing reaction that penetrates deeper into porous grout. Leave for 15 to 20 minutes. Scrub with a stiff brush, narrow enough to work within the grout lines. Rinse. The grout will be noticeably lighter after a single treatment and can be brought back to near original color with 2 or 3 sessions. For sealed hardwood floors, hydrogen peroxide diluted to half strength, 1 part 3% solution, 1 part water, ankaching and as gi and an ancho and twice. Applied with a well-wrung mop cleans effectively without the moisture damage caused by excessive water. It sanitizes without leaving chemical residue and doesn't dull the finish the way many commercial floor cleaners do over time. Let the floor dry completely before walking on it. For stone surfaces, granite, marble, limestone, hydrogen peroxide at 3% is safe and effective where many commercial cleaners are not. Stone is porous and absorbs chemical residue from strongly alkaline or acidic cleaners. Hydrogen peroxide is pH neutral and leaves nothing behind. The broader picture, what this really costs them. The cleaning industry has built its entire revenue model on complexity. A different product for every surface creates a shopping list. A shopping list creates a cleaning cupboard full of bottles that each need replacing. Bottles that each need replacing create quarterly spending that adds up over a household's lifetime to thousands of euros spent on products whose active ingredients could be bought in 2 or 3 simple compounds for almost nothing. Hydrogen peroxide cannot be made proprietary. It cannot be patented. It has been in the public domain since its discovery in 1818 by French chemist Louis-Jacques Thénard, who isolated it while researching barium peroxide reactions with nitric acid. Any manufacturer can sell it. No manufacturer can own it. What manufacturers can do, and have done, is take it, add fragrance and color and stabilizers, give it a trademarked name and a premium label, and sell it at 10 to 20 times the cost of the pure compound. Then spend heavily on advertising to ensure you associate the brand with cleaning competence and associate the unbranded product with uncertainty. The uncertainty they've created is entirely manufactured. Hydrogen peroxide at 3% concentration has over 200 years of documented safety and efficacy. Hospitals have used it for wound disinfection since the 19th century. Food processing facilities use it to sanitize packaging and equipment. It is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. It costs less than €2. It is available in every pharmacy. It cannot be owned by anyone. I want to say something personal before I close because I think honesty matters here. When I was rebuilding my cleaning practices after 60, replacing the cupboard full of specialty products with a handful of simple compounds, there were moments of genuine anger, not at myself, but at the 40 years I'd spent spending more than I needed to for results that were often worse than what I could have achieved for almost nothing. My mother cleaned her kitchen with things she could name and explain. I cleaned mine with things whose ingredients I couldn't pronounce and whose actual function I didn't understand. She knew what she was doing. I was trusting a label. That gap between what my family knew and what I'd been sold in its place is what I've spent the last decade closing. Hydrogen peroxide was one of the first things I recovered. Once you understand what it does and why, the whole edifice of the cleaning products aisle looks different. You see it for what it is, the same basic chemistry, repackaged endlessly, sold back to you with margin. You don't have to keep paying that margin. Clear water, the full account of every surface, every method, everything I tested is mai ki adau mai di e ete sat is in the pinned comment. And I'll see you in the next video, where the simplicity goes even further than this.